Hi and welcome back to my channel. Now in this video I'm going to run through a really quick sports photography checklist. All the things that you need to check in terms of equipment, gear, camera, lenses, software, camera settings and your general setup. All the things you need before you arrive at the ground, at the stadium or at the place that you're going to be shooting. The first thing I'm going to check is my bag. I generally use this Niwa. It's kind of like an airport style roller bag with some absorbent gel inside. The first lens that goes in is the big f2.8 400mm. Then I'm putting in the 70-200 f2.8 and the 15-35 2.8. I have the Canon R3 and also the Canon R5. Sometimes I use the Canon R6, but for this I'm just using two cameras. I make sure my laptop is ready and that goes in the front pocket. I have a SD card and compact flash card reader that goes in one of the inside pockets along with a USB-C to C cable. I have a set of tools that I like to carry with me just in case I need to make an adjustment. I have a power bank, make sure that's fully charged. I have a spare battery for the Canon R5 and I also have an AC adapter with a USB-C and USB-A ports. I have a couple of spare SD cards. I like to use these sort of adapters for the cables that I use, and I make sure I have plenty of spare cables, USB-C and USB-A. I have an Ethernet cable and also an Ethernet adapter that's also USB-C and USB-A compatible. That's just in case I need to be plugged in to transfer any imagery. I also have a blower and a microfiber cloth. I have these Pocket Wizard remote triggers that I like to use on occasions. And that's of course if I'm able to use them, and I have the connecting cables for the Canon cameras and I have plenty of spares just in case they break. I have this kind of mini tripod that I use. That's for the remote camera for the Pocket Wizards if I am able to use those. Occasionally I may need to use a flash, so it's worth having one in the bag. This is my monopod, really important for use with the big f2.8 400mm lens. This is the Black Rapid double kind of shoulder strap that allows me to carry two cameras when I'm kind of walking around the stadium. This is my retractable seat that I like to use. This is my laptop tray that I'm able to kind of fold flat. I also position it on top of the roller bag when I'm in position in the stadiums. So that allows me to work and edit on my photos without me having to pick up the laptop. That can just sit on top of the bag, and I find that's a really good way to work. So we have a little bit of time in the media room. So now I'm going to basically go through the team lineups. So the best way to start is just to go to the website and just to scroll through, find out the latest squads, find out who's playing. And I'm just going to go through and adjust my code replacement file, which is simply a text file. It works alongside Photo Mechanic. So I'm just going to scroll through. I'm going to update last season's squad list with this season's squad list. It's a process that's going to take me about sort of 10 to 15 minutes. And then once the code replacements file is complete, I'm going to go to File, then Edit, down to Settings and Reload Code Replacements. So now we have Photo Mechanic open on the laptop. It's now time to go to your ingest settings. I'm just going to rename the sequence to the latest lineup, which is Brisbane versus Wellington Phoenix, and I'm just going to make sure the date is correct. I'm going to reset the sequence variable to 0001. I'm then going to set up a folder on my laptop for this batch of photos. I'm going to copy and paste a preset group of folders. Then I'm just going to drop in. I'm now going to set the primary destination to the folder that I've just set up. So then I open that. Then I'm able to check the metadata file. I'm just going to load a previous metadata file and I'm just going to make some edits to that because chances are it has most of the information already in. So I just need to update the old metadata with the new metadata, which is basically putting in today's teams and changing the date, maybe change the location, and really, really simple basic stuff like that. So, but it's really good idea to scroll through and check and double check everything in the metadata file, because if there's one thing that's wrong, it could affect the way that your image is found on the internet. You need to make sure that it's searchable, that the information is completely correct and accurate. So I'm just going to scan through again and just check everything over, and I think I'm happy with that. So I'm just going to save this metadata file. I always save them, and I'm just going to, I'm not going to overwrite anything. I'm just going to create a brand new file here with today's teams and also today's date, which is the 26th of April, 2025. So I'm just going to change that, and I'm going to save that as a separate file. I'm now going to close the template down. So I've set primary destination. I'm now going to check, and I'm just going to make sure that copy lock photos only is on and copy non-raw photos only is on. Check auto ingest and also check unmount disk. Now I'm going to check the FTP settings, and I'm going to select the folder where the uploaded photos are going to be saved. So I'm going to make sure that is correct. Limit file size is set to 4. I'm just going to check the FTP settings just to make sure that the photos are going to the right place. I don't need to worry about the metadata template, and that's pretty much it. Now you can see that's taken me about 12 minutes to do. So it shouldn't take you that long, but probably better to do it before you arrive at the stadium, so it just allows you more time. Now we're ready to set up all the gear at the side of the pitch. So I generally like to have all my cameras and lenses ready. Then I set up the rest of the equipment. So the laptop goes onto the laptop stand, set up my seat, etc. And at this point, I will then start to go through the menu system. So I'm just going to run through the menu system on the Canon R3 just to go over the settings that I use for sports photography. So this is kind of like a kind of menu system checklist to make sure we got the right settings. So before you've even arrived at the stadium, you know that you're kind of ready to go. I generally use a JPEG. So I'm going to leave that on L, so the highest quality. Image type, I generally shoot C-RAW and JPEG L, two separate cards. So that's fine. Exposure compensation generally is going to be adjusted throughout the game. So anti-flicker is off for now, but I probably might have to turn that on at some point. I generally want to adjust the white balance as and when I arrive at the stadium, so I can get the most accurate white balance. I generally leave that until I arrive at the stadium. I make sure that I've got my picture style assigned, and it's the picture style that I generally make some small adjustments to, so I know that that's ready to go. The clarity, I generally push up to +1. I don't need to worry about these things too much. I don't need to worry about any of those. So drive mode is set to high speed continuous plus. So that's all ready to go. The shutter mode, I generally use the electronic first curtain. I find that works really well as opposed to the mechanical. Electronic first curtain gives me the sort of 12 frames per second shooting, which I think is enough. As opposed to electronic. Electronic just gives me too many shots to handle. If I really have to, then I'll switch to electronic, but electronic first curtain I find does the job really, really well. Don't need to worry about any of these things here. So really important one to obviously bear in mind is AF operation will be set to servo. AF area is spot AF. Subject tracking, I generally have that turned off. Subject to detect is obviously important, so set that to people. Eye detection has been enabled, and switching track subject is just left on its sort of default setting. So servo AF, I generally use case 2. I find that works good enough for pretty much everything, but I have changed the tracking sensitivity to -2, and the acceleration deceleration I've made +1. Just a couple of tweaks there. But case 2 is what I normally use, but you can use case 1, versatile multi-purpose setting, case 3, instantly focus on subjects suddenly entering AF points, or you can use case 4 for subjects that accelerate, de-accelerate very quickly, and you can just use case auto, which is case A, tracking automatically adapts to subject movement. So it really is down to you. It's down to the sport and the environment that you're shooting in, which servo AF case you choose. But I generally leave it on case 2. I find that works really well. So moving along, don't really have to worry too much about any of these things, I have to be honest. Then we move to the playback section, which is kind of important. So I generally need to make sure that I have image jump set to display protected images only. That's okay. And then the rate button is set to protect, and also hold to record voice memo. That's my general setup. So I just need to check that that's on. My workflow involves me protecting the images that I want to keep in camera before they are transferred onto the laptop via Photo Mechanic. So it's really important that I have that rate button function assigned. And it's just one that I check and I make sure that that's set up. And that's pretty much it. Don't really have to worry too much about these things. You can have these things enabled or disabled if you prefer, but it doesn't really matter. Airplane mode I leave on for now because I'm not doing any kind of wireless or Bluetooth transfer, so I have airplane mode set on, which means that it's cutting all the signals. Airplane mode off means that all the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth signals are operating, which can kind of drain the battery a little bit, so it's worth just shutting those down. So we move on to the kind of sort of yellow section. Record card function folder set. So I need to make sure that this one here is set to 2. This is the card that my JPEGs are being saved to. So I need to set this to play. So basically when I hit the playback button on the camera, I'm able to scroll through and I'm able to rate or protect. Remember, I'm protecting by doing this in the corner. I'm protecting the images that I want to keep, but I only want to protect the JPEGs. That's why this has been assigned to 2. I can change it to 1, but that will mean that I'm scrolling through the RAW files. As you can see now, you can see C RAW at the bottom and card 1 is at the top. So let's change that back. So play is now 2. So if I go to play, you can see it's JPEG L at the bottom and it's card 2. So really important that that is set up. File numbering, file name, don't need to worry too much about it. Kind of important to set the correct time and date, that the zone that you're in. So I'm in Sydney time zone and this is a pretty accurate time. So I'm going to leave that alone. But obviously if you're going through different time zones, if you're traveling interstate or you're traveling to other countries, it's important to set the time accurately. So keep a check on that as well. Don't need to worry too much about any of these. Power saving is probably worth keeping a check on. I generally want to turn most things off pretty quickly if I'm not using the camera. That's purely just to save the battery. So keep an eye on the power saving. Don't really need to worry about any of these things. Eye control is off. Touch control is not set to sensitive. Don't need to worry about any of that. None of these things really apply. The only thing that I would keep a check on is set shutter speed. So for mechanical and electronic first curtain, sometimes I do set the lowest speed to be something like 500ths of a second. Really depends on what I'm shooting because it prevents me from shooting at an extremely slow shutter speed. If my camera is on some sort of auto setting, it's like a fail safe. It prevents or stops the camera from shooting at extremely low shutter speeds, which could mean that you end up with a lot of blurred images if you're not really looking at what you're doing. But I'm just going to set that to 1/60th of a second. But you can change it to whatever you want. And of course, you can do the same adjustment for electronic. For now, it's not really going to bother me too much, but it might be something that you might want to just check on. And the rest of these things don't really matter that much. So that would be my kind of basic checklist through the sort of Canon menu system. And of course, it's a very similar thing to do with Nikon and Sony cameras as well. Just to run through really quickly, just to get used to keeping a check on the features and the functionality of the camera that you use continuously and consistently, and just to make sure that they are on the right settings. So after I've taken a batch of photos, it's time to transfer those photos from the cameras onto the laptop. And so this is where Photo Mechanic comes in. So I have auto ingest set to on, and it basically transfers all the photos onto the computer that's been marked as protect. So these are the JPEG files going from the cameras straight onto the laptop, and it's copying locked photos only, and it's also copying non-RAW photos only. So I can do this repeatedly throughout the match. As it's set to auto ingest, Photo Mechanic remembers what's already been transferred. So you just need to put the card in and it transfers the next set of protected images. It's very clever software, highly recommended. If you want to know more about how to shoot sports photography and the Photo Mechanic workflow, please view this video here. So now once all the photos have been copied onto the laptop, I'm able to start making the edits and also select the photos that I wish to upload to my agency. So it's really, really good, efficient software. I'm able to scroll through and I'm able to change the metadata using the code replacements that I've already set in that text file, able to go through and really quickly and easily annotate and apply descriptions to the photos that I intend to send off to the agency. So I'm just going to do a really quick, simple edit, crop and straighten, and maybe just do a small kind of enhancement in Photoshop, save the image down, and it's now ready to be sent. Just going to quickly check the file size, and then I'm going to hit Control U for the FTP settings, and I want to scale the image down to 4,200 pixels. So I check the image size beforehand, and I know that it's greater than that. So I'm going to check limit file size, and then I'm going to hit send. So we're just going to run through that process again. Here's an image of some of the fans in the stand. So I hit I on the keyboard, and I have my code replacements already set. So it's really quick and simple to set the description up of the image, and then I'm just going to do a very basic crop and edit and straighten in Photoshop. Then I'm going to save that down, and that is ready to be sent via FTP. Again, I'm just going to check the image size, and I know that it's greater than 4,200, so I'm just going to scale the image down, and that image has now been sent. Thanks so much for watching. That's a really quick kind of run through on a sort of basic day by day or week by week kind of sports photography checklist. All the essential things that you need to make sure that you have set prior to arriving at the stadium or the ground or the place where you're going to be working. Make sure that you have everything ready prior to kickoff, and make sure the batteries have been charged. Make sure your laptop is charged. Take extra power if you need to, like a power bank. Also take like adapters, plugs that you can plug in. Take plenty of cables. You need cables to plug in. Spare SD cards. Make sure that you have the correct files on your laptop ready. You have your metadata set up. You have your folders set up. You have your FTP information set. And hopefully you're ready to go. It really is down to preparation and making sure that you have everything pre-prepared and you have plenty of time before the game or before the event so that you're able to change things, check things, make sure everything's okay prior to starting. Thanks so much for watching. I hope this has been of some help and some benefit. Please give it a like, give it a share, and of course subscribe for more videos. Thank you.